In this lesson, I'm going to take you through the basics of slap technique all the way to playing stuff like I just played then. So we're going to start with the thumb, and I've got one exercise for you here on an E string. The S stands for thumb or slap. Sometimes it is notated with a T, which means thumb. Same thing, you just get the bony part of your thumb here. And you see where the end of the fretboard is here. You can slap there. Now, lots of different people have different ways of playing. This isn't the only way. You're going to have to find the way that you like the most. I get my thumb and I put it parallel to the string, and that's where I strike it with the bony part right there where the fretboard ends. We've just got 4 E's here. And then 4 eighth notes, 2 E's. Now, I encourage you to make up your own rhythms and your own permutations of this. But I'm stopping the note with the fretting hand. As soon as you close your fingers over the strings, the note will stop. So what I'm doing here is coming down, not from too great a height, and just bouncing off the string. Now, if you don't do that, the string won't vibrate. Some people point their thumb down a bit, some up a bit, and some like I'm doing like this. Like I say, depending on whether you're sitting, standing, what bass you have, just experiment a bit with that. So that's the thumb technique. As we go through the lesson, I'm going to show you some improvising things you can do, as well as just these exercises, which you can download below. Next we have finger popping, which is denoted with a P. So you get your index finger in this case, and you curl it round and you put it under the string, the D string in this case, and you just pop it, that's the other word for it, a pop away from the body. This, by the way, is a passive 1982 Ibanez Roadster. It's got precision and a jazz pickup. I'm right in the middle. I've got Elite Players strings. They're quite old, 45 to 105. I've got no EQ. I've got no compression. I'm just going straight in to the computer. It's just as basic a slap tone as you can get. You can add compression and EQ if you like, but this is all I'm doing here. So sometimes I will personally just, steady things a bit. I've got my wrist here. I'm hitting the body of the bass to be consistent. So you're kind of coming down, and that hooked finger is going in and under the strings. It's like... So you've got to make sure you get in there okay. Now feel free to just move this exercise around to any... Same with the thumb. Not very exciting, but you're just getting used to the movement. It took me ages to get that down, by the way, without choking the note. You get this sort of bounce coming off the string. Just work at it. Don't get too despondent if you were like me and you couldn't do it. Next exercise, we've got the addition of the middle finger for popping. This is a relatively short lesson. I'm going to whiz through some of the basic techniques. You can really get as fancy as you want with this. You can do 2 notes, almost like a drummer does a flam. Index followed by middle. How about 2nd fret on the D and the G? Play them together. Make your own things up. I'm just playing an open E, and then those 2 notes, the E and the B. We'll talk about muting, which is extremely important, in a minute, but let's look at some basic slap patterns. We're going to use the E with our thumb and pop on that 2nd fret of the D string, the E. You can also play 7th fret A string. I'll do that actually. Here's the pattern. Much better with a drum beat, which is one of the tips actually, is to play with a drum loop. I'll put this one in the link below where you can download this for free along with the PDF. You need to work on your timing with slap along with the technique. of it. This is a good time to talk about muting. I'm on the second line now. Right, there's a rest there. Sometimes if you mute, you can catch a harmonic. What you want to do when you mute is to be really solid with your muting. Usually that means using more than one finger, straightened finger, across all of the strings. So really use your ears to listen out for extraneous noises. Recording yourself is a great thing to do. Listen back and you'll hear all those noises and you'll really want to tidy up your muting. Let's go to the second fret. If you watch lots of slap players, Lewis Johnson, one of my favourites, they do strange looking things with their fretting hand, including putting the thumb over the top, which any teacher will tell you is a no-no. Well, here it's fine. That's to do with muting. See, there's no real rule here. This is like, you wouldn't do this, but to get cleaner muting, you would. That's what I mean about finding your own way. Study players, watch YouTube videos, experiment, see what you want to do. You know, you can't be too precious about this. If you've got that thumb behind the neck, then you're not using it for muting. So do experiment. Muting is great too, because once you've choked the strings like this, you get access to percussive ghost notes, which we'll come on to in a minute. Your slapping hand, my right one in this case, is quite busy going in this direction and this direction. And if I just do that 1 second, just watch what I'm doing here. Think about it like this. If you use a plectrum or a pick and you're going down, up, it's this sort of machine-like thing. I think about that with slap a bit. Instead of going down, up that way, I'm kind of going into the body of the bass, away from the body of the bass. So there's my down, there's my up, if you want to think about it like that, rather than thumb and pop. But it's a machine-like thing. Here I'm thinking 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and those are eighths. With the drums. So you can do something like that, where you're just making up rhythms and working on that slap thing and pop thing, okay? And that bounce and getting in the groove of it. So muting, playing scales with slap bass, right? So this is a Dorian mode. We're really going to notch things up a level or 10 from now on to the end of the lesson. And this is a bit of a whiz through slap bass technique. You're probably going to have to sit with these techniques until you get it. It's going to take you a while. But this is a Dorian mode. We're going to go into a lot of improvising now and just learn this shape. So here we go. I've got 3 notes per string, and now I'm going to do some pop. Now, just going back to muting, 1 second. I'm using the heel of that hand there just to rest on the E and the A strings as I play the notes. It's another way you can mute, okay? There's not just one way. Or I might do the Lewis Johnson thing of using my thumb over the top. Marcus Miller does that a little bit as well. So, playing scales with slap bass. Now, you make up bass lines. Sometimes it looks a bit difficult when you watch a player just improvising, you know, like... If you know the collection of notes to play, it's super easy, right? So we've got Dorian. Got your Dorian mode, and that is a minor mode. It's the second mode of a major scale. And it goes really well with that. That's the minor pentatonic scale. So once you have that set of shapes, you can just practice your slap and your pop using any of these. You can go up scales. Just just making up rhythms here, little double stops. That's a 10th. I'm playing the G and just literally going up the scale, 10 notes away from that, if we count that as 1. Works on the G and the A, 2 frets higher. I was using some advanced techniques there, more of that in a minute, but I was just using those notes. And did you hear what I was doing there? I was leaving space. That's one of the great things about slap, you could do that. Now you can play slap, obviously it lends itself very well to funk bass playing. It's used a bit in pop music as well, and it's used a lot in rock. I'm playing in a kind of funky style here, but you know, you can do all kinds of intricate things. Speaking of which, let's move on to some of those advanced techniques. So we're talking ghost notes for percussive effects. That's where you deaden the strings and you just play anything. And that in combination with notes sounds good. Here's the first example. Okay, so slowly. That's a dotted 8th to a 16th. That's that rhythm. Da, 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 da. Again, I'm muting as much as I can because this hand is busy and it might knock other strings, although I'm trying to be as accurate as possible just to hit the E. But maybe there I might just mute the A string. There we go. And then as I come down, I need to deaden everything, and then E octave again, and then a ghost on the E. That. So this is very much to do with coordination, as anything is. And what you're going to do to get this together is be patient and take it really slow, even if you just have to do this. Just that over and over. And that E isn't still ringing, I have to stop it. The longer fingers can do that job. And then you can just make up your own thing. Maybe I'll move the E to the 7th fret A string. Here's that thing again. My hand, my arm is completely in the groove. There I'm using E octaves, first finger on the 7th fret of the A string and 2 frets higher, 2 strings higher. There, I'm still doing that thumb movement, but I'm faster now. That's quite hard to do that, especially if you're kind of new to this technique. I know I'm going from beginning to more advanced here. It's not that you do this in the space of 30 minutes. You know, everyone's different. It took me ages to get this, but the real key is slowing things down, analysing the technique, really getting it clean and building up speed from there. It's quite boring, but you have to do that. Hammer-ons. That's it. I'm going to zero in on the 3rd beat there with the hammer-on. So we've got a slap on the E, and then a hammer-on onto the G, 3rd fret. I'm using the 2nd finger. And then I'm just releasing pressure to get that ghost note. There's 4/16 there. Da, 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 da. Now this really is the key to slap. This kind of interplay between the two hands. So this isn't really doing that much. And this isn't really doing that much. You know, together it creates the magic. It's very much like doing this. You know, it's using two hands to your advantage. Slow it down. And And you can take these lines and do whatever you like with them. I'm just using some of those Dorian notes from before. Let's add a pull-off into there. Going back to that hammer-on, I'm using the fingertip to drive through that third fret. I'm really thinking through it to get that as loud as that. You know, compression is good for slap, but you want your technique to be as efficient as possible. A pull-off, let's just zero in on it. We've got a C to a B, fret 3 to 2 on the A string. I'm using a pop here. My first finger is already fretting the second fret, the B. You pluck or pop. And it's a flick of the string down towards the floor, really. I'm probably going to touch that D string on the way down. I'm not going through that because then I will pluck that. So I'm trying to get that movement precise. And there's a bit of a movement here between the strings. You want to be able to get your pop or your thumb, so whichever finger you're using, anywhere. Even something like that, hammer on, G to A, 5 to 7 on the D string. I'm going thumb, and then following it on the same string with the index. That can be tricky. There I'm just using a minor pentatonic scale. And just that interplay between the thumb and the finger. And this hand, of course. Slides. So we've got this. Hammer on, ghost, pop. A couple of hammer-ons slowly. You can download this tab for free and just sit down and study it and break it down and beat by beat, note by note if you need to. So this last bit. So we've got pop and then slap. You've got to keep the note pressed in whilst you slide. If you lift up, it'll stop. And as that's coming to this, as I'm doing the slide, that little finger is ready to play the 6th fret, the C sharp. That's your major 10th I spoke about earlier. All of these notes are the ones that we used from that Dorian mode. Download all those exercises, go through them, go from the very easiest point. Even if you're an advanced slap player, it just pays to go back to basics. Make sure you're really muting and make sure the interplay between the hands is there. Always use a metronome or a drum loop. You really need to get the groove going in your head and subdivision of the beats. Learn some simple slap bass riffs and listen. I'm going to put a link below to a blog post where you can download all this stuff, and I'll put some songs like Power, Marcus Miller. What else have I got here? Higher Ground, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Get on the Floor, Louis Johnson, Hair, Larry Graham. Classic line. You listen to those players and they're all doing pretty much what I've just shown you. Some have got different little tricks going on, but just build your dexterity and your strength every day, and you will build it up bit by bit. It takes a bit of time. So be patient, stick with the process, and you'll be fine. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.